CreepyCorner stories.
Hey everyone, welcome back to CreepyCorner stories. You know, diving into the dark web is always risky, but sharing these stories with you makes it worth it. I'm curious, where are you watching this from right now? Let me know in the comments below. I've noticed that these kinds of stories hit differently depending on where you are. It might even make the experience a little creepier. So, tell me, are you watching from the safety of your home or somewhere less secure? I found a dark web live stream inside Area 51. Something in the background was watching the gods. Alright, before I start, let me just say, I'm not some tinfoil hat conspiracy dude who spends his nights digging through alien theories on Reddit. I'm just bored. I was bored when this happened, and that boredom probably almost got me killed. It started on a random Tuesday night. My roommates were out. My phone battery was at 12%, and I was just scrolling TikTok while eating cold McDonald's fries from earlier that day. I had this weird urge to hop on my old Discord server. You know, the one you make with your high school friends and then forget about. Only a couple of us were online. That's when Eli joined the voice call. I hadn't talked to Eli in months. The dude was always into weird internet stuff. If there was some creepy corner of the web, he had probably bookmarked it. We start talking, just catching up, and out of nowhere, he says, "You still got Tor installed?" At first I laughed, thinking he was joking, but then he screen shared. I swear, my stomach dropped the second I saw it. A dark web page with just one thing on it. A looping GIF of a flickering security camera feed with the words, "Live now, restricted view," in plain white text underneath. I told him it was probably fake. He said it wasn't. And here's the part that freaked me out. In the corner of the feed, under the timestamp, there were GPS coordinates. Out of curiosity, I copied them into Google Maps. They landed dead center inside Area 51. I know what you're thinking. Fake coordinates, fake feed. But here's where it gets worse. The camera angle wasn't of some sci-fi alien lab. It looked like the side of a dusty military building, lit by a single buzzing light. Two guards were pacing back and forth. Every so often, one would walk right up to the camera's edge, turn, and vanish off frame. Eli says, "Watch the top right corner." I leaned in. There was something. At first, I thought it was a shadow, like part of the wall, but then it moved. It was tall, way taller than the guards, and the way it stepped out of view was wrong, like its legs bent backwards. That's when Eli told me the messed up part. This stream wasn't public. He'd found it through an invite-only channel on a private Telegram group. According to the messages, whoever was running it was going to switch cameras soon, and apparently there was something else they were going to show. I told him to close it. He laughed it off. I ended the call. But here's the thing. 30 minutes later, my Discord lit up again. Eli had sent me a screen recording. Only this time, the feed wasn't of the guards. It was inside a dim hallway. No guards, just a door at the far end. A steel one, with that same flickering light above it. And from behind the door, there was this steady, slow thumping. I told myself not to watch anymore. I closed Discord. I tried to sleep. Except at 3:14 a.m., I woke up to a notification. It was from Instagram. A random account with 0 followers had tagged me in a story. It was a screenshot of that same hallway from the feed. Only now, the door was wide open. By the time I saw that Instagram story, my mouth was dry, like I'd swallowed dust. I didn't click it again. I didn't want to. But the thing is, Instagram stories disappear after 24 hours, and my brain started screaming at me. What if there's something in there I need to see? So yeah, I clicked it. It was worse than I thought. The steel door from the feed was open, and the hallway looked exactly the same, except there was someone crouched just inside the doorway, not standing, not walking, crouched. They weren't wearing a uniform like the guards. They were barefoot, knees jutting out at impossible angles, and their hands, God, their hands looked too long, like they could have reached the ground without even bending over. The figure's head was tilted all the way to the side, like they were listening for something. But here's what made me feel like my brain was glitching. There was motion blur around its face, like it was moving too fast for the camera to capture, but it wasn't moving at all. I dropped my phone on the bed, just sat there in the dark. Then Eli texted, "No, hey, no, look at this." Just a link. It wasn't the dark website this time. It was YouTube. The video had no title, no description, just a black thumbnail. I clicked it. It was the same hallway, but now there was audio, the faint hum of the fluorescent light, the low, muffled thump I'd heard before. And then, clear as day, footsteps, slow, uneven, dragging footsteps. They weren't coming from the camera's side of the hallway. They were coming from behind the camera. The feed didn't turn, but the footsteps got closer until I could hear breathing. Shallow, quick bursts, like whoever was there was excited. And then the lights went out. Complete black. I thought it was over, but after about 4 seconds, there was this sharp clink sound, like a microphone being tapped, and a whisper so close to the mic, it distorted. "You're next." I slammed my laptop shut. My heart was hammering, but I wasn't ready for what came next, because 3 minutes later, there was a knock at my apartment door. Not a loud, angry pounding, just 3 calm knocks, like whoever it was had all the time in the world. I froze. I didn't breathe. My phone buzzed. It was a FaceTime call from an unknown number. Against every bit of common sense, I answered, but kept the camera covered. The screen was black. Then, slowly, the image brightened, like someone was adjusting their phone flashlight. It was my front door, from the hallway outside. Right then, I didn't move. I didn't speak. The person on the other side leaned down, holding the phone low, so all I could see were their legs, bare, pale, covered in what looked like dry dirt. They stayed there for almost a minute, just breathing, and then they slid something under my door. I waited until I couldn't hear footsteps anymore before I grabbed it. It was a Polaroid photo. The picture was of my building's hallway, but it wasn't taken that night. It was daylight in the photo, and right in the middle of the frame was Eli. He was standing barefoot, wearing the same jeans I'd last seen him in months ago, and he was looking straight into the camera. The thing that made me almost throw up. There was a blurred, crouched figure behind him, and Eli's shadow didn't match his body. After I saw that Polaroid, I didn't sleep for 2 nights. I left every single light on in my apartment. I even unplugged my TV and Wi-Fi at night, thinking maybe it would stop whoever was messing with me. It didn't. On the third night, at exactly 2:53 a.m., my bedroom light flickered 3 times. I'd never had that happen before. It wasn't the bulb going out. It was rhythmic, like someone was playing with the breaker. Then my phone lit up, not from the screen, but from the flashlight turning on by itself. When I picked it up, the camera app was open. It was in selfie mode. The weird part? I wasn't in the frame. Instead, it was showing the far corner of my bedroom, the one behind me. I spun around. Nothing there. But the screen stayed on, locked on that corner. And then, faintly, the sound came through my phone speakers. That same dragging step I'd heard in the YouTube video, only slower, heavier. The air in my room felt wrong, like it wasn't mine anymore. I shut my phone off completely and grabbed my hoodie to leave the apartment. The second I opened my door, I noticed something off. The hallway carpet outside was damp, not wet from rain, sticky. It trailed from the stairwell right up to my door, and there were no footprints, just long smudged marks, like someone had dragged their hands along the ground while crawling. I went straight for the stairs, but halfway down, I froze. In the dim yellow light at the bottom, someone was standing, not moving, just standing perfectly still, facing the wall. It wasn't Eli. It wasn't a neighbor. Their head was tilted way back, staring up at the ceiling, like they were counting the stains in the plaster. I didn't breathe. Then, without lowering their head, they started to turn. The body rotated toward me, but the head stayed fixed upward. I didn't wait to see their face. I bolted back upstairs, slammed my door, and shoved my dresser against it. My hands were shaking so badly, I could barely dial Eli. He didn't answer, but the call didn't go to voicemail either. It just rang, over and over, for a full minute before someone finally picked up. It wasn't Eli's voice. It was breathing, and then something else. A sound I can't forget, like someone dragging their nails across glass, but muffled, like it was happening inside my own head. Then a whisper, static in the walls. The call ended. For hours after, I could swear I actually heard it. A faint crackling under the hum of my fridge, under the buzz of my phone charger, even when I pressed my hands over my ears. When I couldn't take it anymore, I decided to break into Eli's apartment. We lived in the same building, 4 floors down. He'd been quiet for days. His door was unlocked. Inside, every single reflective surface was gone. No mirrors, no TV, no glass in the picture frames. His bathroom mirror had been smashed out of the wall entirely, leaving jagged edges like teeth. And in the center of his living room, there was just one thing, a chair, facing the wall, with the laptop sitting open on the seat. The laptop was running the live stream, but this time, it wasn't Area 51. It was my apartment. The camera was inside my bedroom, facing my bed, except the bed was empty, and in the far corner, where my phone had been pointing the night before, something was crouched. I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just backed out of the apartment, walked up the stairs, locked my door, and sat on my floor until the sun came up. When I finally worked up the nerve to check my bedroom, the corner was empty, but on my bed, there was a new Polaroid. It was me, asleep. Only I was smiling, and my eyes were open. The morning after I found that Polaroid of me, sleeping, I packed a bag and left my apartment. No plan, no destination, just gone. I took an Uber across town to a Starbucks in the middle of the morning rush. and sat in the back corner, my hoodie pulled up, trying to disappear. I told myself that being surrounded by people would make me feel safe. I was wrong. At 9:17 a.m., a guy sat down at the table across from mine. Didn't order coffee, didn't open a laptop, just sat there, elbows on the table, staring at his own hands. At first, I thought he was waiting for someone, but then I noticed his fingers, thin, pale, unnaturally long. He tapped them against the tabletop in a rhythm that sounded too familiar. 3 slow taps, pause, 3 slow taps. The exact same pattern my bedroom light had flickered in. My stomach dropped. He didn't look up at me once, but somehow I knew he knew I was watching. After maybe a full minute of tapping, he slid something across the table without even glancing up. A crumpled, damp napkin. I didn't want to touch it, but I did. Inside, in smudged black ink, were 5 words: "You're facing the wrong way." I looked toward the counter, toward the windows. Nothing. Then I realized he didn't mean outside. He meant behind me. When I turned, a woman was standing by the bathroom door. She was barefoot. Her hair was wet like she'd just stepped out of a shower, and her head was tilted all the way to the left, eyes locked on mine. In her right hand, she was holding my apartment keys. I swear, my blood actually felt cold. Before I could move, the barista yelled something about the bathrooms being out of order, and the woman slipped inside anyway. When I looked back at the table, the long-fingered guy was gone. No chair movement, no footsteps, just gone. I left my coffee half full and walked out without looking behind me. But walking didn't help. The city felt wrong. Every reflective surface, a store window, a bus stop, a car mirror, looked like it was half a second behind reality. I caught glimpses of myself, turning corners I hadn't reached yet. At one point, passing a McDonald's, I saw my own reflection step away from me and smile. I walked faster. By the time I got to a crowded intersection, I was almost running. That's when my phone buzzed in my pocket. Text from an unknown number. "Stop moving." I froze in the middle of the sidewalk. Another text came instantly. "Look up." I did. On the digital billboard above the intersection, the ad for some streaming service had been replaced with a grainy live feed of me, right there, standing in the street, head tilted up at the screen. The crowd around me didn't notice. The feed zoomed in until my face filled the billboard, and then the image started to glitch. My mouth stretched into an unnatural grin. My eyes went black, and the sound of that same faint static filled the air, not through my phone, but from somewhere all around. And then, the billboard showed something standing behind me. I didn't even need to turn to know it was there. I could feel the air thinning, the sound dampening like someone had pressed their palms over my ears. The billboard flickered to black, and the crosswalk light turned green. The crowd moved. I didn't. By the time I found the courage to glance over my shoulder, the street was empty. No cars, no people, just me. And at the far end of the block, standing perfectly still, in the middle of the road, was the crouched figure from the hallway feed. Only now, it was tall. Too tall, like it had unfolded itself into something human-shaped, but stretched past the point of being human. Its head tilted. My phone buzzed again. "Run!" I did. I ducked into an alley and didn't stop until I was behind a locked steel gate at the back of some abandoned delivery dock. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone when the live stream notification popped up. This time, there was no Area 51, no hallway, just a single shaky shot of me, right now, crouched in the corner of the dock. Except the me on the stream wasn't looking at the camera. It was looking at something just over my shoulder. I should have kept running. Instead, I stood there in that delivery dock, phone trembling in my hand, watching the live stream of myself. Watching myself. The me on the screen moved first. It tilted its head slowly, like testing the weight of it, then began walking toward the camera. I didn't move, but the figure on the screen was getting closer, step after step, until its face was almost pressed to the lens. That's when I realized it wasn't my face. It was wearing my clothes, my hair, my skin, but the eyes were wrong, too wide. The pupils were so large, they swallowed the irises, and they didn't blink. Not once. Then, without warning, the feed cut to black. In the black, I saw my reflection in the phone screen, and behind me, a faint shape in the shadows. I turned, and for the first time, it wasn't on a screen. It was in the same air as me. The thing wasn't crouched anymore. It was taller than the gate, head brushing the ceiling of the dock, limbs bent like it had been jammed into a space too small for it, and was still unfolding. Its skin was wrong, not pale, but thin enough to see whatever was moving underneath. It took one step, and the sound wasn't a step at all. It was like tearing fabric, only slower. I backed against the gate, fingers digging into the cold steel, and that's when my phone rang. The caller ID, Eli. My throat was so dry it hurt to answer. Before I could speak, his voice came through, sharp, fast, terrified. Don't let it touch you. If it touches you, it keeps you. Then I heard him scream. Not a startled scream, the kind you make when something impossible is happening to your body. The call cut off. The thing took another step toward me. My phone vibrated again. This time, it was a video call request from my own number. I didn't answer. The gate behind me rattled. Not from me, from outside. Someone was trying to get in. Through the thin slit between the bars, I saw hands. Dozens of them. Thin, bone-pale, nails chipped and dark, all reaching through at once, grabbing for me. Some were too high to belong to anyone standing on the other side. The thing stopped moving, head tilted, like it was waiting. Then, slowly, it raised one long arm and pointed past me, toward the gate. One of the hands on the other side pushed something through the bars. It slid across the floor until it bumped my shoe. It was a phone. Eli's phone. The screen lit up without me touching it. It was playing another live stream. This time, I wasn't in it. Neither was the thing. It was a room, small, with no windows, just concrete walls. In the middle, a single metal chair. Sitting in it was Eli, or what was left of him. He was upright, but his head hung low, chin resting on his chest. His hands were folded neatly in his lap, and where his eyes should have been, there was only flat, pale skin, stretched smooth, like they'd never existed. Then the camera feed jolted, like someone had grabbed it. The view swung wildly until it landed on the far corner of the room. Something was there, watching. It wasn't the tall figure. This was worse, smaller, but wrong in every way. Its proportions scrambled, head far too large for its thin frame, jaw hanging slack as it stared at the camera with eyes that weren't eyes at all, just two perfect black voids. It leaned in, closer and closer, until the entire feed was swallowed by those voids. The phone in my hand went black, and then, behind me, the gate gave way. The last thing I remember was the sound of dozens of bare feet slapping against concrete, all coming for me at once. I woke up in my own bed. Sunlight was coming through the blinds. My phone was on the nightstand, dead. For a moment, I thought I'd dreamed it all, until I saw the Polaroid sitting on my chest. It was a picture of me, sleeping, but this time, I wasn't alone in the frame. The tall thing was lying beside me, face inches from mine, its eyes open and unblinking, and behind it, through the window, the smaller thing was watching. No one else can see them, but they're here. They're always here. I made this ending so it leaves zero comfort. Just that lingering, they're still out there, dread. If you want, I can give you a bonus epilogue post, written like the OP tried to warn others later, but was already too far gone. That would push it even further into this is not just a story territory. Someone on the dark web sent me satellite images of the pyramids. There was a new one no one talks about, so I never thought I'd be that guy telling a story like this. Like, I'm not some dark web hacker or urban explorer or whatever. I'm just a regular dude who works a boring IT help desk job, drinks too much Starbucks, and occasionally doom scrolls Reddit at 3 a.m. when I can't sleep. This whole thing started because I was trying to find high-res satellite images for a side project. I'm a huge geography nerd. Like, Google Earth is my guilty pleasure. I'll just zoom in on random places, like the McDonald's in Times Square, or some tiny fishing village in Norway, just to see how people live. Anyway, one night last October, I got this helpful DM on an obscure map nerd Discord I hang out in. Username was something weird. OBSERRUNDERSCORESIXTEEN. No profile picture, no mutual friends. They sent me a link, no context, just, if you like maps, you'll want to see this. Don't share it. The link was to some .onion address. So, yeah, the dark web. Now, I know the rule. Don't click shady links from strangers. But here's the thing. It was 2:47 a.m. I was bored, and I've always had that dumb curiosity that makes people in horror movies die first. I fired up Tor, pasted the link. The site that loaded looked like a bootleg version of Google Earth, except the interface was all black and red, with these super sharp, almost too clear satellite images. No logos, no watermarks. I zoomed in on the pyramids in Giza, because, obviously, why not start with something cool? The first two looked normal. The Great Pyramid, the Pyramid of Khafre. But then, right off to the west, in the middle of the desert where there's nothing on Google Earth, there was another pyramid, smaller, jet black, and, this is gonna sound insane, it was perfectly smooth, like obsidian glass. I thought maybe it was some ancient ruin no one talks about. But when I hovered over it, text popped up. Pyramid 4. Active. I literally laughed. Like, okay, what kind of ARG is this? But then the image shifted, like it was a live feed. Shadows moved. The sand rippled. I almost closed it right there, but then a chat box appeared in the corner of the screen. I swear to God, I didn't click anything. It said, "You shouldn't be here." The next message popped up before I could react. Check your email. Now, This is where I got freaked out, because I hadn't given anyone my email. But sure enough, when I opened Gmail, there was a new message in my inbox. No subject line, no sender name. The only thing in the body was a single JPEG attachment. It was another satellite image. This time, it wasn't just the Black Pyramid. It was me, sitting at my desk, in my apartment. At that exact moment, I didn't scream. I didn't even move. I just sat there, staring at the JPEG like it was going to explain itself if I looked long enough. The photo wasn't grainy, like it was taken from some cheap security cam. It was perfect, crystal clear, sharp enough that you could count the fibers on my hoodie. And the angle, it wasn't from my laptop camera. It was from above, directly above, like ceiling level. Only thing is, I live on the top floor. No attic, no crawl space, nothing. Before I could even start to process that, my screen flickered. Not crashed, flickered, like an old TV. The photo was replaced with what looked like a live video feed of my own living room. Same camera angle, but now it was in real time. I stood up. The feed showed me standing up. That was when the audio kicked in. Not from my laptop speakers, from every device in my apartment. My Alexa, my phone, even my Bluetooth speaker in the kitchen. They all synced up and started playing this faint static that grew louder until it turned into whispering. I couldn't understand the words, but the tone made my stomach twist. It sounded like someone trying to speak while drowning. Then the camera feed zoomed in, so close on my face that I could see my own pupils contract. And a voice, low, calm, like someone telling you a bedtime story, spoke right into my apartment. It's not finished yet. I don't remember deciding to move, but I was suddenly at my door, grabbing my keys, my wallet, didn't even put on shoes. I just left. It was raining, cold enough that my skin burned, but my brain wasn't registering anything except get away. I didn't have a destination in mind, so I ended up at the 24-hour McDonald's near my place. It's the one off the interstate, the one with the broken neon M, so it just says, "See Donald's." I sat there with a Coke, trying to convince myself it was just some elaborate prank. Some creep had hacked my webcam, maybe used a drone. Yeah, creepy, but explainable. That's when my phone buzzed. Instagram notification. Normally it's just dumb meme pages or group chats, but this time it was a DM request. The profile had no posts, no followers, no name. Just a black circle as the profile pic. The message was a single video. It wasn't like the satellite feed earlier. This was street level, filmed from a dash cam. My dash cam, the one in my car parked outside my building. It showed me leaving my apartment minutes earlier, barefoot, hood up. Only this time, the footage didn't stop when I got to my car. In this video, something followed me. I don't mean a person. It was taller, maybe 7 feet, skinny to the point where the joints looked wrong, like sticks bending in the wrong way. Its skin, if that's what it was, looked like the color of wet sand. It didn't walk. It tilted, like its balance was just slightly off, but it kept pace with me without touching the ground. When I froze the video to look closer, the thing's head was turned directly at the dash cam. The eyes weren't glowing. They weren't black. They were reflective, like glass marbles catching the street light. I was still staring at the paused frame when the lights in the McDonald's flickered. The fries went silent. The soda machine hissed and stopped. For a second, the entire building was dead quiet. Then, the intercom, the one they used to call out order numbers, crackled, and a voice came through, the same one from my apartment. "You're not far enough." The manager screamed. People bolted. I don't even remember leaving. I just remember running into the rain again, my Coke cup still in my hand, the ice rattling inside. I ended up at a friend's apartment on the other side of the city. He's a night owl, so he didn't mind me showing up. I didn't tell him everything, just said I thought someone was stalking me. He let me crash on his couch. Around 4 a.m., I woke up to the sound of the TV in his living room, turning on by itself. Not to a show, not to static. It was a satellite feed again, the Black Pyramid. But this time, there were people in front of it, rows of them, standing perfectly still in the sand, facing the pyramid. They weren't wearing normal clothes, just these pale, loose sheets, like hospital gowns. The camera zoomed in, and I swear, no matter what you think of me after this, they weren't strangers. They were people I knew. Old high school classmates, my old boss from Starbucks, my neighbor's kid, all of them just standing there. And right in the front row, staring directly at the camera, was me. I couldn't move. I was sitting on my friend's couch, staring at that live feed like my brain had been unplugged. On the screen, me was just standing in the front row with the others, expressionless, pale in that pale hospital gown fabric. My arms were hanging straight down, and my eyes, they were wrong. Not rolled back, not glowing, just dead, like a mannequin that could breathe. Then, without warning, that version of me tilted its head, not to the side, but up, like it was looking past the camera, straight into whoever was watching, straight into me. The feed didn't lag. There was no delay. I took one slow step forward, sand shifting under bare feet. Everyone else in the crowd stayed perfectly still. I thought maybe it was a trick, like the image was pre-recorded. But then I raised my right hand, slowly, not waving, just lifting it, palm facing the camera. The second my hand reached chest level, my own right hand, here in my friend's living room, lifted on its own. I didn't choose to do it. My arm just moved, like something had grabbed it from the inside. I tried to lower it, but it was like pushing against concrete. On the screen, I turned that raised hand so the palm faced me, and then I started pressing my own palm hard into my chest. I felt my ribs flex, not break, but push inward in a way ribs aren't supposed to. It was like my own body was testing how far it could bend before snapping. I gasped so loud it woke my friend. He came stumbling in from his bedroom, rubbing his eyes, muttering something about me watching weird cult documentaries at 4 a.m. He didn't see the feed. That's the part that still messes with me. He just saw a black screen. The TV wasn't even on for him, but my arm wouldn't drop. My own palm was digging harder into my chest now, and the version of me on the screen had started smiling. Not a wide, cartoon smile, just the faintest curl at the edges of the mouth. The kind of smile you see from someone who's already decided what's going to happen to you. My friend shook me hard enough to snap whatever was happening. My arm dropped. The TV screen went dark, completely black. No static, no feed. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I just sat in the kitchen, staring at the rain-streaked window, feeling like my body wasn't entirely mine. In the morning, I decided to go home. Big mistake. When I got to my building, my apartment door was open, No signs of a break-in, no splintered wood, no damaged lock. Just open, like I'd left it that way. Inside, nothing was missing, nothing overturned, except every mirror in my apartment was gone. Bathroom mirror, gone. The little one above my dresser, gone. Even the mirrored surface on my microwave was replaced with plain steel, like it had never been reflective at all. On my kitchen counter was a package, plain brown, no return address, just my name scrawled in black marker. Inside, wrapped in a sheet of something that looked like wax paper, was a photograph. It was me again. Same hospital gown, same dead eyes. But this time, I wasn't at the pyramid. I was sitting on a bench at the exact McDonald's I'd been in the night before. My bare feet were covered in what looked like black sand, and my hands were clasped together, holding something small and red. I don't know why, but I couldn't stop staring at the red thing in my hands. The more I looked, the more I realized it wasn't an object. It was a tooth, a human tooth. That's when my phone buzzed. A notification from a number I didn't have saved. Just a text that read, "We can start when you're ready." I deleted the text without replying. A second later, another message came through. "You don't get to decide when you're ready." Attached was a short video file, only 5 seconds long. It was filmed from behind me, like someone was holding a phone right over my shoulder. In the video, I was sitting at my kitchen table right now, opening the same package, unwrapping the same photograph. But here's the part that almost made me throw my phone across the room. In the video, my reflection in the stainless steel toaster was smiling, and my real face wasn't. The package with the photograph was still on my table when the first knock came. It wasn't a normal knock, more like the flat side of a hand hitting the wood in a slow, even rhythm. 3 times. Wait. 3 more. I froze. It was broad daylight outside, but my apartment suddenly felt dim, like the shadows had thickened in the corners. I walked to the door and checked the peephole. Empty hallway. I almost opened the door just to prove it was nothing, but then another knock. This time, it didn't come from the door. It came from inside. I turned toward the sound. It was from my bedroom wall. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. Like it was answering itself. There's no apartment next to mine on that side. It's just the outside wall of the building. I walked closer, and my phone buzzed. Another text from that same unsaved number. "Don't keep yourself waiting." Before I could even react, the knock started again, now on 2 walls at once, like something was inside the drywall, moving fast. Then, from my kitchen, I heard the sound of something metal scraping across the countertop. I stepped into the doorway just in time to see my toaster sliding, not falling, sliding slowly toward the edge, like it was being pulled by something invisible. The reflective steel caught my eye, and in it, I saw myself. Only I wasn't standing in the kitchen. I was behind me. It wasn't a trick of light. It was the other me. Same hospital gown, same dead eyes, standing inches from my real back. In the reflection, it leaned forward and whispered something into my ear that I couldn't hear, but my body reacted like I did. My skin crawled so hard, it felt like it was peeling. I spun around. No one there. Then the smell hit me. Damp sand, like a beach after a storm. It was coming from the middle of my living room. That's when the carpet started to sink. Not a lot, just enough to see it ripple downward, like something heavy was pressing from underneath. And slowly, grains of black sand started seeping up through the fibers. I backed into the hallway, but my shoulder brushed something warm. I turned and came face to face with myself. It wasn't like in the feed. This one was breathing, chest rising and falling. The skin was clammy, cold where it touched me, but the breath was hot. Its head tilted just slightly, the way you tilt when you're trying to listen to something far away. Then, without warning, it reached into its mouth, fingers digging past the lips, nails scraping teeth. It pulled something out, slowly, painfully. A tooth, its own, my own. It dropped the tooth into my hand. I didn't want to hold it, but my fingers closed around it like they weren't mine anymore. It leaned close enough that our noses almost touched, and it whispered, clear this time, "You're almost here." Then it was gone, not like it walked away, not like it disappeared into thin air, just gone. 1 second there, the next second, I was staring at empty space, the smell of sand still hanging in the air. I ran, out the door, down the stairs, into the street. I didn't care if I looked insane. I didn't even know where I was going until I realized my feet had taken me to the train station. I got on the first outbound train without checking the destination. I just needed distance. But halfway through the ride, my phone buzzed again. Another text. No words this time, just a photo. It was the inside of the very train car I was sitting in, taken from the far end. In the picture, everyone else was blurred, like motion blur, except for me, and the version of me in the hospital gown. It was sitting directly across from me, head tilted, smiling now. I looked up from my phone and scanned the car. It wasn't there, but in the reflection of the darkened window beside me, it was right next to me. I didn't get off the train. I should have, but I was afraid if I stood up, the reflection beside me would stand up too. The ride stretched forever. Every time we passed through a tunnel, the windows became mirrors, and there it was, the other me, perfectly still, staring straight ahead, not blinking, not moving. When the train finally stopped at the end of the line, I got off with the rest of the crowd, shoving through without looking back. I figured if I could get somewhere crowded, somewhere bright, it couldn't follow me. I ended up in one of those massive open-air shopping centers, Starbucks on the corner, a little Apple store across the plaza, people everywhere, music from store speakers, mixing with the hiss of the fountains. Normal life. I was starting to breathe again when I noticed the fountain in the center of the plaza. It was supposed to be spraying clear water, but the water was black, not like dirt, black, like oil, and everyone around me was ignoring it. I walked closer, weaving through the crowd. The closer I got, the more I realized the water wasn't liquid at all. It was sand, flowing upward from the basin, spilling into the air and vanishing before it could hit the ground. When I reached the edge, something in the sand shifted, like there was movement beneath it. And then I saw it, an angle, impossibly sharp, just for a moment, the corner of the black pyramid. I stumbled back, but my phone buzzed. Another message, this one with a live video feed. It was me, standing at the fountain, holding my phone. Only in the feed, there was no crowd, no sunlight, just endless desert, the sky a flat, sickly gray. The pyramid loomed behind me, massive, flawless, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. And standing where I was in the real plaza was the other me, watching. I dropped my phone. People walked around it like it wasn't even there, like they couldn't see me, or it. Then it stepped forward, not rushing, just closing the distance with slow, deliberate steps. The crowd kept moving, parting around us as if we didn't exist. When it was a foot away, it reached out, and I couldn't move. Not from fear. My body just stopped obeying me. It pressed its palm against my chest, right over my heart. And the world changed. The plaza dissolved. I was standing in the desert. The sand was cold, the air dry enough to burn my throat. The sky had no sun. The black pyramid towered above me, so close now I could see faint shapes moving inside its surface, like shadows trapped behind glass. The other me stepped aside, gesturing toward the entrance, a perfect triangular opening that wasn't there a second ago. My legs moved on their own, carrying me inside. It was silent inside, not quiet, silent. No footsteps, no breathing. The walls weren't stone. They were smooth, almost soft, and warm under my fingers. The corridor twisted downward, deeper and deeper, until we came to a chamber. In the center was a pit, perfectly circular, and at the bottom of the pit were rows of people, not lying down, standing, shoulder to shoulder, their faces tilted upward, all of them wearing hospital gowns, all of them exact copies of people I knew, neighbors, co-workers, strangers I'd passed on the street, and at the very front was me. But this version was different. Its eyes weren't dead. They were bright, alive, like mine. It smiled, my real smile, and then it spoke in my own voice. You took too long. Something grabbed my shoulders from behind, bony fingers, inhumanly strong, and shoved me forward into the pit. I didn't fall. I sank, like the air had turned to liquid. The others closed in around me, their bodies pressing against mine, until I couldn't move my arms. The last thing I saw before the darkness swallowed me was the other me stepping up out of the pit, stretching its new hands, rolling its new shoulders. My shoulders. When I woke up, I was back in the plaza. Sunlight, people, Starbucks, my phone in my hand. But when I caught my reflection in the Apple Store window, the smile looking back at me wasn't mine. And somewhere, far away, I could still taste sand in my mouth. This is where it ends for you, but not for the narrator, because in their place is something else now. It's the kind of ending that leaves a reader wondering if they've just been introduced to the other version without realizing it. Do you want me to also create a realistic surveillance photo style image of the Black Pyramid in the desert, so it feels like evidence from the story? That would take it over the edge into creepily believable. I clicked on a dark web red room by accident. The person tied up was already saying my name. So, I never thought I'd be one of those people who ended up telling a story like this. You know, the ones you see on r/NOSLEEP or hear on those animated horror story channels where some random dude gets in over his head because they decided to mess around on the deep web. Yeah, I always thought those were fake, until last month. It started out like a normal Friday night. I was sitting in my room, hoodie on, lights low, scrolling TikTok while sipping one of those massive caramel fraps from Starbucks. I'd just gotten back from hanging out at McDonald's with a couple of friends. We were joking about dumb conspiracy theories, like the Denver airport being an Illuminati bunker, and how there's apparently a McDonald's in Switzerland with chandeliers. Somewhere in that conversation, one of my friends brought up the deep web. I laughed and told them I'd been there before, just browsing, nothing crazy. But my buddy Josh says, "Nah man, you've only seen the surface of it. There's a whole side you'd never want to see." He sends me a link over Discord later that night. The message just says, "If you're bored, try this, but only if you're alone." It looked like a normal URL at first, but it had that long string of random characters ending in .onion. For some reason, I didn't think twice. I grabbed my old laptop, the one with the cracked screen and keys missing, booted up Tor, and typed it in. When the page loaded, my stomach immediately dropped. It wasn't some shady store selling stolen credit cards or hacked Netflix accounts. It was a black screen with one single red button in the middle. Above it, white text read, "Live feed. Enter at your own risk." Now, I know what you're thinking. That's already the point where I should have just closed the laptop, thrown it in the ocean, and gone to bed. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. I clicked it. The feed opened instantly. The first thing I noticed wasn't the person, it was the room. It looked like one of those cheap Airbnbs you'd get in a city like Chicago or Berlin. The walls were this faded cream color. There was a single IKEA chair in the corner, and behind it, I swear I recognized the curtains. They had that same ugly floral print as the ones in my old apartment building. Then I saw the person, a man, mid-40s maybe, tied to a chair with thick duct tape around his wrists and ankles. His head hung low, like he was unconscious. There was this dim, flickering light above him, and the sound of water dripping somewhere off camera. For a good 30 seconds, nothing happened. I almost backed out until his head slowly lifted, and then, clear as day, in a low, shaky voice, he said, "Jake, that's my name." Nobody knew I was on this site. My webcam light wasn't on, my mic was off, and my Discord status was set to invisible. But this man, this stranger, said my name like he'd been expecting me. And then he said something else, so quietly I almost missed it. "They're coming for you." Right as he finished, the feed glitched, like static ripping across the screen, and the sound of footsteps started getting louder through my laptop speakers. Not from my room, from his. The footsteps in the video were slow, measured. Whoever was walking knew exactly how loud they were being. The man in the chair kept staring straight into the camera, his eyes wide and wet, like he was silently begging me not to look away. Then, a shadow entered the frame. At first, I thought it was just some grainy distortion in the feed, but no, this figure was tall, too tall. The top of their head nearly touched the ceiling, and they were wearing some kind of matte black raincoat, hood pulled so low I couldn't see a face. No sound of breathing, no sound of movement, except those deliberate steps. The man in the chair started shaking. His hands twisted against the duct tape so violently that I could hear the skin tearing through the speakers. I almost slammed the laptop shut until the figure's head snapped toward the camera like it could see me. Not see the camera, see me. There was no mouth visible, no eyes, just darkness under that hood, but somehow I knew it was smiling. Then, in a voice that didn't match the body, too calm, too casual, it said, "Nice room, Jake. Looks cozy. And I swear to you, the camera feed panned slightly, as if it were mimicking the angle of my own bedroom. The IKEA lamp, the messy desk, with an empty Starbucks cup, even the pile of hoodies on the chair. I felt my whole body go cold. I reached for the power button. That's when it happened. A knock. Not on my door. On my window. 3 sharp taps, each one perfectly in sync with the figure's steps on the video. My room's on the 2nd floor. There's no balcony, no ladder, nothing. Just a straight drop to the driveway. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Another knock. Louder this time. The man on the screen was shaking his head violently now, his mouth moving so fast, the words blurred together. I leaned closer to try and hear him, and realized he wasn't speaking English. It was some guttural, rapid language that sounded almost like reversed audio. And then, my phone buzzed. I picked it up without thinking, but there was no notification, just a FaceTime call from an unknown number. The preview image was pure black, but my gut told me the camera was on. I ended the call instantly. When I looked back at the laptop, the man in the chair was gone. The camera was now pointing at something else. A street. Wet asphalt reflecting streetlights. Garbage cans lined up like soldiers. I leaned forward, trying to figure out where it was, and that's when my heart stopped. It was my street. I recognized the dented blue mailbox and the McDonald's sign glowing faintly in the distance. There's 1-2 blocks away from me. The feed jolted forward, like whoever was holding the camera was walking. The shaky movement got closer and closer until the screen was filled with the peeling paint of my house's siding. Another knock at my window. This time, so hard the glass rattled. I stood up, backing toward my door, where my bedroom light flickered. Just once. But in that split second of darkness, I could see a reflection in the window. Not my reflection. Someone was outside, tall, wearing that same matte black raincoat, head tilted, like they were studying me. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, but as soon as I hit call, the screen froze, completely locked up. My laptop speakers erupted with static so loud I could feel it in my teeth, and through it, faintly, I heard the same calm voice. "Don't call them. They're already here." My bedroom doorknob clicked, and I swear on my life, I hadn't even heard anyone come up the stairs. The doorknob didn't turn fast, like in horror movies. It rotated slowly, clicking bit by bit, like whoever was on the other side was enjoying the sound. My body locked up. I didn't even breathe. I was afraid they'd hear the air moving in my lungs. The only sound in my room was the faint electric hum of my laptop and the low hiss of static still bleeding from its speakers. Then, silence. The knob stopped. I almost convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe I'd imagined it. But then, without warning, the door creaked inward about 2 inches, just enough for the hallway light to slip through in a narrow stripe across my carpet. The smell hit first. Not cologne, not sweat. Something sharp, chemical, like old bleach mixed with the copper tang of blood. I didn't have to see them to know they'd been close to it. Too close. The gap widened. No rush. No footsteps. And then a hand came into view, gripping the edge of the door. The skin was pale, almost translucent under the light. Nails bitten down to the quick, jagged and dark at the edges. Every knuckle was red and cracked, like the skin had been rubbed raw. I backed up until my spine pressed against the cold wall under my window. My eyes kept darting between the door and the laptop screen. The stream was still showing my house's siding, but now it was moving again, shaky, like the camera holder was circling the property. The door opened wider, and there he was, not the raincoat figure from outside, someone else. He was thin, not just skinny, but starved. His cheekbones jutted out in sharp angles, his hoodie hanging loose, like it was 2 sizes too big. His hair was greasy, black, sticking to his forehead in wet strands. His mouth was fixed in this twitchy half smile, like he couldn't decide whether to laugh or scream. And he was holding my phone, the same one I'd tried to call 911 on. It was still on the home screen, but the camera was active, pointed right at me. "I told you they were here," he whispered, and my blood went cold. It was the same voice from the laptop. I don't know why, but that broke me out of my paralysis. I lunged for the door, planning to shove him out and run, but he moved faster than I thought possible. He didn't hit me. He didn't yell. He just slid the door shut behind him and locked it. Now it was just me and him. He kept walking toward me, slow, deliberate. I could see something under the cuff of his hoodie, a band of duct tape wrapped around his wrist, the sticky edge blackened with dirt. There were faint smudges of red on it. I asked him what he wanted. He didn't answer. He crouched down in front of my desk, turned the laptop toward himself, and waved. The stream changed instantly. The camera feed that had been showing my house now showed my bedroom, from a different angle, from outside the window. I spun toward it. Nothing there. No face. Just darkness beyond the glass. But when I looked back at the laptop, the figure in the raincoat was standing exactly where I'd been sitting minutes earlier. That's when the guy in my room pulled something from his pocket. Not a knife. Not a gun. A USB stick. He plugged it into my laptop without breaking eye contact with me. Immediately, files began popping open. Photos I didn't remember taking. My sleeping face from different nights. My shower curtain pulled halfway back. My front door at 3 a.m. I couldn't breathe. My skin crawled like my whole life had been peeled open and dumped in front of me. He leaned in close, so close I could feel the warmth of his breath on my ear, and whispered, "This isn't the first time I've been in here." And then, a sound from outside. A heavy thump, like something landing on the roof. The guy's smile widened, and he stood up straight, heading toward the door without looking at me. He unlocked it, slipped out into the hallway, and shut it behind him. No running, no rush, just gone. I bolted to the door, yanked it open. Empty hallway. No sound of footsteps on the stairs. When I turned back to my laptop, the stream was gone. Just a blank black screen with one single message in red text. "Don't move. He's still in the house." The message stayed on my laptop screen, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Don't move. He's still in the house." It felt like the words weren't just telling me. They were watching me. I didn't want to believe it, but the air in the room had shifted. You know when someone's in the same space as you, even if they're not making a sound. The temperature changes. Your skin feels heavier. Every breath feels like it has to fight through something thick. That's what it was like. I didn't hear footsteps. Not at first. I heard the house. The faint creak of a floorboard somewhere above my ceiling. The low groan of a wall settling where it shouldn't. The sound of weight moving. The guy who'd been in my room could have left. Maybe he was the only one, but I knew, deep down, that there was more than one. I slid away from the door, crouching low, listening. Somewhere down the hall, something brushed against the wall. A slow drag, like fingertips, trailing along paint. My heartbeat was so loud, it drowned out everything for a second. I thought about calling the cops again, but my phone was still missing. Then I remembered my mom's old iPhone she kept in the top drawer of the hallway cabinet. It barely worked, but it could make a call. The problem was, I had to get there. The hallway outside my room is long, with 3 doors on the left and 2 on the right before it reaches the stairs. That meant a lot of blind spots. I eased my door open inch by inch until I could peek out. Empty. I stepped into the hall, every muscle screaming at me to turn back, and started toward the cabinet. My socks made no sound on the carpet, but my breathing felt like it echoed off the walls. Halfway down, I froze. The bathroom door, which had been open all day, was now shut, and I could hear breathing inside. Slow, wet. I didn't move. I just stared at the gap under the door, waiting for shadows. Then, the handle twitched. Not a full turn, just a twitch, like someone was deciding whether to come out. That's when I saw it. Something slid out from under the door. Not a hand, not a foot. A phone. Screen up, unlocked, with the camera pointed at me. The image was shaky, but unmistakable. I was on it, crouched in the hole, staring down at it, like prey looking into a trap. Before I could react, the screen went black, and the breathing stopped. I ran. I yanked open the hallway cabinet and dug through junk mail, batteries, old remotes. My hands were shaking so hard, I almost knocked the whole thing over, until I found the old iPhone. I pressed the power button. The screen lit up, thank God. But the moment it did, I heard something new. From the kitchen downstairs, the sound of cutlery clinking together. Slow, deliberate metal on metal. Someone was going through the drawers. I ducked into my mom's old office across the hall and shut the door, keeping the handle turned so it wouldn't click. I sat on the floor against the desk and finally dialed 911. It rang. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then, a voice answered. Not the dispatcher. You shouldn't have called, Jake. It was him. The guy from my room. I threw the phone across the room and covered my mouth. My eyes darted to the window. 2 stories up, a sheer drop into the side yard. If I jumped, I might break a leg, but I'd be out. That's when the doorknob began to turn. Not fast, not even slow this time. Just steady, deliberate, like whoever it was knew I was on the other side and didn't care if I heard. I grabbed a heavy stapler from the desk, ready to swing if I had to. The door opened, and there was no one there. The hallway was empty, but then, from right behind me, less than a foot from my ear, a whisper. I like watching you decide. I spun. Nothing. The window was still closed. The only exit was the door I'd just been looking at. I bolted out into the hall, down the stairs, straight for the front door, and froze. Every single lock on the door, deadbolt, chain, sliding latch, was reversed on the outside. And then, from the top of the stairs behind me, a different voice, deeper. Go ahead, try that deeper voice. At the top of the stairs, didn't shout. It didn't rush. It just waited. I didn't look back. I couldn't. My eyes were locked on the locks, the ones now sealing me inside from the outside. like I was meant to be here. Then the sound started, a faint mechanical whir, coming from the living room. I turned my head just enough to see the TV had turned itself on. No channel, just a live feed. My feed. My body was on the screen from a high angle, as if a camera was mounted right above the front door. I glanced up at the ceiling. Nothing there. But on the TV, I saw something I didn't see in real life. A shape, standing directly behind me. My entire body locked up. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move. On the TV, the figure leaned forward, hood shadowing its face, and slowly raised something in its hand. I spun around. Nothing. When I turned back to the TV, the angle had changed. It wasn't showing the door anymore. It was showing the living room couch, and sitting on it was the man from the chair in the first feed. Only now, he wasn't tied up. His wrists were free, skin flayed where the duct tape had been. He was staring dead at the camera, same as before. No blinking, no breathing. Then he smiled, a cracked, bloodless grin, and pointed, not at the camera, at me. The deeper voice spoke again, closer now, as if it was at the bottom of the stairs. Time to sit down. I didn't want to. I didn't want to obey, but there was something in his tone that bypassed thought. My legs just moved. I sat. The man on the TV tilted his head, mirroring me exactly. Then the image split into 4 smaller feeds. Top left, my kitchen. Top right, my bedroom. Bottom left, the street outside. Bottom right, a dim concrete basement I didn't recognize. In the basement feed, someone was moving. Slowly, bare feet dragging across the floor, each step leaving a faint, wet mark behind. The camera followed as they walked toward the center, where an empty chair sat waiting. My chair. I knew it before I saw it. The scuff mark on the leg, the tear in the cushion. That was my exact chair from my desk upstairs. I stood. My instinct screamed to run, but run where? Every door was locked from the outside. Every window had a shadow behind it. The kitchen feed flickered, and now there was movement there too. A person crouched by the counter, back to the camera. Slowly, they began setting things out on the floor. A hammer, a roll of duct tape, a large Ziploc bag filled with something too dark to be water. I didn't realize I was backing toward the wall until I hit it. My fingernails dug into the paint. The living room light dimmed just slightly, and my laptop, still upstairs, began playing audio through the house speakers. Not music, not static. Breathing. Different from before. Heavier, quicker, uneven. Like someone watching something they'd been waiting a long time for. Then my phone, the one the intruder had earlier, lit up on the coffee table. No ringtone, no buzz. Just the screen glowing with a video call request. The contact name was Look. I didn't want to, but my hand moved on its own. I picked it up and accepted. The screen filled instantly with my own face. Not from the front camera, from behind me. The angle showed the back of my head, the curve of my shoulders, and a hand, just inches from touching me. I dropped the phone and ran for the stairs, thinking if I could get to my room, I could maybe break the window, drop into the yard, anything. Halfway up, I froze. The upstairs hallway wasn't empty anymore. They were all there. The man from my room, the hooded figure from the window, and behind them, 4 more, faces hidden, all standing shoulder to shoulder like they'd been waiting their turn. Not one of them moved. Then the hooded figure stepped forward, bent down so its head was level with mine, and whispered from under that shadow, You clicked the button, Jake. Now you're part of the feed. Everything went black. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in my house. I was in the basement from the last feed. The chair was under me. My wrists burned from the duct tape. The smell of bleach and copper was so thick I could taste it. And in front of me, a camera lens, red light on. Behind it, voices, soft, excited, speaking in that same rapid reverse language from before. Then one voice, clear, calm, casual, spoke in English. Smile for them. They've been waiting all night. The last thing I saw before the light above me went out was the feed, my own terrified face, streaming to a black screen with one single red button in the middle. The dark web sold me footage of a UFO crash. The pilot wasn't what I expected, so for the record, I'm not the kind of guy who's into conspiracy theories. I'm not that tinfoil hat dude on Facebook who comments under NASA Livestream saying, "This is all fake." I'm just a regular college student with terrible sleep habits and an unhealthy addiction to weird internet rabbit holes. It all started because I was bored at, like, 3:30 a.m. My roommates were asleep, campus was dead quiet, and I had this itch to find something creepy to watch. I usually stick to late-night YouTube binges, stuff like top 10 creepiest things caught on Google Maps, or those animated horror channels. But that night, I saw this post in a private Discord server I'm in. The post was just a screenshot of a text file on someone's desktop, titled, "Crash Cam 78.move. Do not open on campus Wi-Fi." There was no context, just that. Naturally, my dumb brain thought, oh, this is probably some dumb gore bait. But the guy who posted it said something that hooked me. This isn't a joke. This is real footage. It's from an actual crash site. You'll know what I mean when you see it. And then, like the responsible adult I am, I ignored every red flag and decided to track down the file myself. I couldn't find it on normal sites. I tried Reddit, 4chan, even some shady Telegram groups, and nothing. Finally, I found a link buried in an old post on a deep web forum that looked like it hadn't been updated since MySpace was cool. The page loaded in that weird, broken HTML way with neon green text on a black background. The seller's profile name was 0x Pilot Hunter. They were asking for $25 in Bitcoin. That was it. No fancy description. Just, you are buying a .move file. 7 minutes. Real crash. Not a hoax. Watch alone. My curiosity overpowered my common sense. I bought it, downloaded it to a cheap external SSD, and made sure not to open it on my school's Wi-Fi, because apparently that's where I drew the line for safety. When I finally played it, my heart rate spiked almost immediately. The first frame was just static. Then, the video cut to handheld footage. Nighttime, shaky, someone breathing hard. They were standing in what looked like a field outside a small town. The camera swung around wildly, and for a split second, I saw the golden arches of a McDonald's glowing faintly in the background, like they were only a block away. Then the camera zoomed in on this thing. It looked like a small plane had gone down, except the metal was bent in impossible angles, like it had been melted and pulled at the same time. The craft was glowing faintly, like a dying ember. There was smoke, but no fire. And the smell. Well, obviously, the video didn't have smell, but the guy filming kept gagging and muttering, "It smells wrong, man. It smells wrong." That's when the camera picked up movement. Something was crawling out of the wreckage. At first I thought it was a person. It had 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, but the proportions were off. The arms were too long, the knees bent backwards, and the skin was this pale, waxy gray. The thing stopped halfway out of the wreckage, and then it looked directly at the camera. Its face. Okay, I need to stop for a second. My hands are literally sweating while I'm typing this, and I don't know if it's because I'm scared or because I'm starting to realize I may have seen something I shouldn't have. But here's the part that's making me lose sleep. After it looked at the camera, it smiled. Not like a creepy monster grin, like a friendly smile. And then it spoke. Not in some alien language, not in weird static noises. It said, "Hey, I think you've been looking for me." The video cut to black, but the file didn't end there. There was one more frame, just one. A blurry still image of a location pin on Google Maps. The label read, Starbucks, downtown Chicago, and the coordinates were only 3 blocks from where my sister lives. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there at my desk with the SSD still plugged in. The video paused on that one blurry Google Maps frame. Chicago, downtown, Starbucks, 3 blocks from my sister's apartment. I kept telling myself it had to be fake. Someone edited it, threw in random coordinates to mess with me. But it didn't feel fake. That smile didn't feel fake. The way it looked at the camera, it wasn't like acting. It was like it was looking through the screen, like it recognized me. By the time the sun came up, I couldn't take it anymore. I booked a bus ticket to Chicago. I didn't even tell my sister I was coming. I just packed a bag, grabbed my camera, and took the SSD. The bus ride was awful. Gray skies, rain tapping the window the whole time, and this weird constant feeling that someone was watching me from the seat behind. Every time I turned around, there'd be no one there. I got to Chicago at 4:52 p.m. My sister was at work, so I went straight to the Starbucks. It was one of those busy ones with big glass windows, a line stretching almost to the door, and the smell of coffee so strong it almost felt fake. At first, everything seemed normal. Baristas calling out mobile orders, people typing away on MacBooks, someone in the corner laughing too loudly into their AirPods. And then I saw him. He was sitting at a table near the window, facing me. Same proportions, same waxy skin, same 2 long arms folded neatly on the table. He was wearing a black hoodie with the hood up and sunglasses, but I knew it was him. Even without seeing the eyes, I knew. He didn't look away when I noticed him. He didn't move at all. Just sat there, sipping from a paper cup. I don't remember deciding to walk toward him. My body just did it. When I got closer, I noticed something that made my stomach turn. The cup wasn't from Starbucks. No logo. Just a plain white paper cup. And whatever was inside, it wasn't coffee. It was thick, dark, and didn't steam at all. When I got to his table, he tilted his head slightly, almost curious. "Sit," he said. Same exact voice from the video. I froze. My fight or flight instinct was screaming at me, but my legs gave in and I sat across from him. Up close, the skin on his face looked wrong. Too smooth in some spots, almost like melted candle wax, and in others, stretched too thin over bone. "Do you know why you're here?" he asked. I shook my head. "You bought the footage." My throat went dry. That wasn't meant for you, he continued, setting the cup down. It was meant for someone who could finish what they started. I finally managed to speak. What are you? He smiled, again, that unnervingly normal smile, and said something I will never forget. I'm the last thing you'll see before you disappear. He reached into his hoodie pocket and slid something across the table. It was a Polaroid photograph. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped it. It was a picture of me, taken from behind, at 3:30 a.m., sitting at my desk, watching the footage. I didn't even notice him leave. One moment he was there, the next the chair was empty and the cup was gone. The Polaroid was the only thing left on the table. I ran out into the street, scanning the crowd, but I didn't see him anywhere. And that's when I realized my bag, where I kept the SSD, was gone. I don't remember getting back to my sister's apartment, but when I did, my phone buzzed. It was a message from an unknown number. Stop looking. Next time, it's your sister. Attached was another picture, this one of her, taken that day, walking home from work. The angle was low, like it had been taken from inside a car. That was 2 nights ago. Last night, I heard scratching outside my sister's apartment door. Not like nails on wood, more like the slow drag of bone against metal. When I finally worked up the courage to look through the peephole, there was nothing there. But the smell, it was the same smell from the crash video. And I swear to God, just before the smell faded, I heard a voice whisper through the door. I think you've been looking for me. That night, I didn't sleep at all. I stayed in the living room with the lights on, my sister locked in her bedroom, both of us pretending everything was fine. Every little sound, the fridge humming, the floorboards creaking, made my chest tighten. At 3:12 a.m., the power went out. Not the whole building, just our apartment. I checked the window. The streetlights outside were still glowing. The Starbucks across the road still had its big neon sign, but our apartment was pitch black. Then the scratching started again. This time, it wasn't at the front door. It was coming from inside the apartment. I grabbed the heaviest thing within reach, a metal floor lamp, and whispered to my sister to stay in her room and lock the door. She didn't respond. I called her name again. Nothing. The scratching got louder, slower, like it was savoring every sound it made. It was coming from the hallway. I turned the flashlight on my phone and pointed it down the hall. At first, I didn't see anything, just the closed doors, the cheap carpet, the shadows stretching too far in the dim light. Then I realized one of the shadows wasn't in the right place. It was tall, wrong, like someone standing perfectly still, with their head tilted so far to the side, it almost touched their shoulder. "Where's my sister?" I asked, my voice breaking. The shadow moved, not toward me, toward her door. I charged forward, swinging the lamp as hard as I could. It connected with something soft, but the shadow didn't flinch. The phone's flashlight flickered, and for half a second, I saw its face again. The too smooth skin, the waxy gleam, the smile that didn't belong on anything living. And then I saw my sister. She was standing behind him. Her eyes were open, but unfocused. Her mouth hung slightly open, like she was about to speak, but no sound came out. She looked empty. He put one of those 2 long arms around her shoulder, almost gently, and whispered, "She's lighter than I thought she'd be." Before I could move, the lights came back on. They were both gone. The front door was wide open. I ran into the hallway. Nothing. Checked the stairwell. Empty. By the time I made it to the street, it was like they'd vanished into thin air. And then I heard it. From somewhere above me, in the direction of the Starbucks sign, came this slow, deliberate tapping sound. Metal against metal. I looked up. He was standing on the roof across the street, holding my sister like she weighed nothing. One arm hooked under her knees, the other holding her wrist. Her head lolled against his chest. The worst part, she wasn't struggling. I yelled her name. His head snapped toward me so fast, I swear I heard something in his neck crack. He smiled, and then, without breaking eye contact, he stepped backward off the roof. They didn't fall fast. It was like gravity didn't matter to him. They just drifted down into the alley. I sprinted after them, almost slipping on wet pavement, my breath burning in my throat. When I turned into the alley, they were gone. But there was something else waiting for me. Another Polaroid. This one was of my bedroom, taken from inside the closet. My phone buzzed. Same unknown number. New message. You've been in the wrong place. Now I'll show you the right one. Underneath, there were coordinates, somewhere outside the city, and a final line. Bring a camera. You'll want proof for the police. I don't know why I'm even thinking about going, but I can't stop picturing my sister's face. The emptiness, the stillness. Whatever that thing is, it's not done with me. I left before sunrise. The coordinates led me about 2 hours out of the city, into a part of Illinois I didn't even know existed. Miles of empty farmland, no gas stations, no traffic. The only sound was the wind rattling old power lines. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Not the police, not my parents. I knew if I did, they'd try to stop me, and I couldn't let that happen. My sister was out there, somewhere. By the time I got close, my GPS stopped working. No signal. I followed the last directions it gave me until the road turned into cracked asphalt and then into dirt. That's when I saw it. An old billboard, its paint peeling, the wood rotting. It had no ad on it anymore, just a single word sprayed in black paint. Landing right below it, a small dirt path cut into a cornfield. I left my car at the edge and started walking. The stalks were taller than me, swaying in the wind like they were whispering to each other. The path twisted until I lost sight of the road entirely. After maybe 10 minutes, the path opened into a clearing, and there it was, the craft from the video. Same melted, bent metal, same ember-like glow pulsing faintly from cracks in its surface. It looked smaller now, like it had been broken apart. But I wasn't alone. They were everywhere. Dozens of them, standing perfectly still around the wreckage. Pale, waxy skin, 2 long limbs, heads tilted at impossible angles. They didn't move when I stepped into the clearing. Didn't even blink. Then I saw her. My sister was kneeling near the wreckage, her hands bound with what looked like thin silver wire. Her head was hanging forward, hair covering her face. I called her name. She slowly lifted her head, and I realized her eyes weren't empty anymore. They were wide, terrified. "Don't," she said, barely a whisper. "It's not what you think." Before I could ask, something cold wrapped around my wrist. He was standing right beside me, the pilot. His grip was like iron, but his skin was ice cold. He leaned in so close, I could hear him breathing, slow, deliberate, almost like he was smelling the fear coming off me. You wanted proof, he said. So watch. He let go, and the others moved. All at once, they started bringing people into the clearing. At first, I thought they were strangers. Then I recognized one of them, the guy who posted the screenshot of the file in the Discord server. His face was pale, his clothes torn, his eyes wide with the kind of fear that doesn't fade. The pilot walked to the center of the clearing and raised both arms. The others copied him, and then it started. The people they'd brought, 5 in total, began screaming, not like they were in pain, but like something was being pulled out of them. I swear I saw it. Thin, glowing threads unraveling from their mouths, their eyes, their fingertips. The threads floated toward the wreckage, where they sank into the glowing cracks. When the threads were gone, the people just collapsed, completely limp. The pilot turned to me. "This is how we go home," he said, smiling. "But the ship needs more." He nodded toward my sister. The others moved toward her. I ran. I don't even remember deciding to. I slammed into one of them so hard I felt something in my shoulder pop. It didn't even try to stop me. It just watched as I grabbed my sister and pulled her toward the cornfield. But as we ran, I realized something was wrong. Her steps were slowing. Her breathing was shallow. I looked back and saw the threads. They were already unraveling from her. I tried to pull her faster, but she stopped, looked at me with tears in her eyes. "You can't take me," she said. "They already started." Behind her, the pilot was walking toward us, not running, just walking, like he knew I couldn't get away. I let go of her hand for 1 second to grab my phone. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I could film it, show someone, prove it was real. When I looked up again, she was gone. Just gone. The corn around me was still swaying, but there was no sign of her. No footsteps, no sound. And standing exactly where she'd been was the pilot. He put something in my hand. Another Polaroid. This one was of her. But she wasn't bound anymore. She was smiling. Not her smile. His smile. And her eyes were wrong. I don't remember how I got back to my car. One moment, I was standing in that cornfield with the Polaroid in my hand, and the next, I was sitting behind the wheel, the sun just starting to rise. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel, my hands shaking so badly I could barely put the keys in the ignition. The Polaroid was still there, lying in the passenger seat, her face staring up at me. That smile, those wrong eyes. I should have driven home. I should have gone to the police. But instead, I drove back into the city. Something had changed. It wasn't just me being paranoid. The streets felt empty, like everyone was hiding. The Starbucks where I'd first seen him was closed, the lights off, the sign dark. There was a piece of paper taped to the glass door, but from across the street, I could tell there was no writing on it, just a single fingerprint pressed into the center. It wasn't human, too long, too thin. I kept driving until I got back to my apartment. The door was unlocked. I knew I had locked it before leaving. Inside, the air was heavy and stale, like it had been sealed for weeks instead of hours. My laptop was open on my desk, a black screen with a single line of text in the center. Transmission received. Begin uplink. The external SSD was plugged in, the one the pilot had taken. I moved to unplug it, but before I could touch it, the screen flickered. Static. Then, the field, the crash site, live. Only this time, It wasn't the wreckage in the frame. It was a long, rectangular metal table, lit from above by a single swinging light. On the table was my sister. She was still smiling. She turned her head toward the camera, slowly, like her neck was resisting the movement, and said, in his voice, "We're almost done." I stumbled back, my chair toppling over, but the feed didn't stop. The camera panned away from her to show the pilot standing just out of the light's reach. His face was still wrong, still smooth and stretched, but there was something new. A series of deep black cracks running down from his eyes, like the skin was splitting apart. He stepped closer to the table, holding something in his hands. At first, I thought it was some kind of surgical tool. Then I realized it was a camera, not a normal one. It looked like it had been built from scraps of the wreckage itself, pieces of that bent metal fused together. He pointed it at my sister, and she let him. When the shutter clicked, the image didn't print on paper. It projected out into the air between them, a flickering, ghostly version of her body floating above the table. He turned to the camera, streaming the feed. "You'll take the next," he said. Before I could even process it, there was a knock at my apartment door. 3 slow knocks, then silence. I didn't move. Another knock, louder. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. "If you don't open it, we'll take you from the inside." The doorknob turned. I ran to the kitchen, grabbed the biggest knife I had, and stood there shaking. The door opened, but no one came in. Instead, my hallway was just gone, replaced by the field, the wreckage, the same dozens of pale, motionless figures standing in the same impossible stillness. The pilot stepped through the threshold like he was stepping over a puddle. Behind him, my sister followed. She didn't look at me. He held out the strange camera to me. "Take the picture," he said, "or she stays like this." I don't know why I did it. Maybe I thought it was the only way to save her. Maybe I thought it would all end if I just played along. I raised the camera and pointed it at her. She looked up at me for the first time, and in that moment I realized there was nothing left of her in those eyes. She was already gone. When I pressed the shutter, everything went black. I woke up in my bed this morning. No sign of the camera. No sign of him. My sister's gone. But there's something new taped to my apartment door. A Polaroid of me, sleeping. And in the corner of the photo, written in neat black ink, "Transmission complete. New pilot ready." That's the end. The implication is that the narrator has been chosen to replace the pilot, the same way the sister was replaced. It leaves the reader with that cold, "this could happen to me" feeling. Do you want me to also make an in-universe, police evidence style document version of the whole story so it feels even more real?